Hey, what's up, guys? If you want to win in the residential general contracting business, whether you're a home builder or a remodeler, this is the only video you're going to need. And for those of you who don't know who I am, my name is Boland. I'm the founder of Remodel Commanders, and it is my job to take residential contractors and remodelers to business success every single day. I have scaled over 40 multi-million-dollar custom home builders and remodelers as an owner, a partner, an executive, or a consultant. And I make these videos because 96% of us go broke every 10 years. I don't want you to be one of them. And as always, I have nothing to sell you in these videos. So guys, I want to put you on some game for free. And unlike those clowns on YouTube, I'm here with the actual real process on how to win in this business. So take out a pen and a pad of paper and let's dive in. Okay, guys, so tip number one is master capital acquisition. And in order to get money, we need to get good at two things. Number one, customer acquisition, and then number two, talent acquisition. Now, the whole customer acquisition, that's like a no-brainer. Everyone's like, yeah, Lane, this isn't groundbreaking. But the thing is with talent acquisition, the reason why that is so unbelievably important is because if you're like every other contractor who insists on doing everything himself because, quote, nobody is as smart as you, nobody cares about this business as well as you, nobody is as experienced as you, people don't want to work, whatever your excuse is, you're never going to get bigger than $1.5 million. And if you never get bigger than $1.5 million, you will always have a job. You won't have a business because you won't have the profit to afford to pay somebody to run that business for you. And the thing is, guys, investors don't buy jobs, they buy businesses. And you won't have a business until there is passive profit net after paying somebody to run the damn company for you. Okay, and this is why 96% of us fail every 10 years, is because of this one critical point. But before we can even afford somebody capable of running these businesses as well as we could, we got to get the capital. Okay, so this is how we unravel that problem. There's two things we got to do. Number one, we call it customer funded marketing. Number two is overbill performance talent. This is what I mean by that, customer funded marketing. What I want us to do is to separate our contract with the homeowner into two separate contracts, right? So you got the build contract and you have the design contract. Most contractors try to sell some janky $500 estimate. And I want you to ask yourself, when has an estimate ever taken less than, I don't know, 2 hours to put together? Never. So the thing is, there's 2,000 working hours in a year, okay? And as a business owner, if we want to be able to retire off this business, we need to be yielding at least 500K of profit a year after we pay somebody to run the company, which would then allow us to sell the company for $1.5 to $2 million so that we could retire. Okay, so if we need 1.5 million and there's 2,000 working hours in a year, let me pull out my calculator here. 1.5 million divided by 2,000 comes out to 750 an hour. Your time is worth 750 an hour. Okay, anyway, moving on. So that's why we don't want to sell an estimate for just $500. What I'd rather you do is sell a design agreement. And what we're going to do is we're going to structure that design agreement as a retainer, just like a lawyer, okay? And what I like to do is I like to price that retainer at 6 to 8% of what the build contract is. So let's say it's a $100,000 kitchen. We're going to price the design retainer at $8,000. Now it's a retainer, which means we're billing against that retainer. So what we're going to do is we're going to go out and find 1099 designers and subcontract to them at an hourly rate. And how to do that is a matter for another discussion, but just stay with me for a second. And so let's say we're paying those guys $100 an hour. Okay. So what I would do is I would set up my billable rate against that retainer at least 200 an hour, which means, we could pay anywhere between 100 and 150 to our design talent. And we're billing the customer's retainer at 200 an hour, recognizing 25 to 50% of that retainer as gross profit. Okay. So in this example, we're paying 100, we're billing 200, that's 50%. 50% times $8,000 is $4,000. So we just unlocked a way to get $4,000 immediately at contract signing in gross profit without picking up a hammer or waiting on our money. Okay, now what I do know is it takes 9, 10 leads in order to get a contract. And typically those leads are going to cost you anywhere between $30, if you know what you're doing, all the way up to $300. Okay. So, essentially, what do we just do? You know, on average, you're going to spend about $2,000 per contract, but we just recognized $4,000 of gross profit in the scenario, which means for every contract we go by, we reinvest that gross profit back into getting more contracts. We just eliminated money as a constraint of your business, at least in terms of getting the contracts, right? Because every contract you go get, it just bought you 2 more. Make sense? Okay, so now you got that process working. Now we need to install what we call overbill performance talent. What does that mean? Well, it's 2 parts, okay? And so, you know, the contract winds its way through design, you've priced it out, they agreed to it, you go to contract. Inside your contract, we need to stipulate your payment schedules. Most contractors do this wrong. There is 19 different trade phases, 21 if you're building new, okay? And what we want is at most an 8-pay draw schedule, and due at the start of each trade, to eliminate the homeowner holding up your money, okay? And what you're gonna do, just if this was my company, I'd charge 25% at contract signing, 19% at the start of demo, or when we go to put in the slab, start a concrete. If you're doing new construction, I would charge another 17% when the framing package arrives, okay? So 25 plus 19 is 44, plus 17 is 61%. So before framing even starts, we've collected 61%. Really, by the time demo starts, we have 40%. Now, so what we're going to do here, guys, this is how we're going to get you off the tools in 90 days. Again, if this was my company, I would use customer-funded marketing to go build a cohort of $400,000 to $500,000 worth of work. And you're probably thinking to yourself, Lane, I can't do that by myself. You are right. So that $400,000 to $500,000, we call it a $500,000 cohort. We build over 40% before demo starts. That's $200,000 of billings. Now we sold those contracts at 40%. Okay, so 40% of 200 is $80,000 of recognized gross profit. That's your gross profit position on that capital. Your average remodeler or self-employed contractor makes less than $80,000 a year. Okay, so on that first cohort, we take that 80K of that initial chunk of money before demo starts to pay for hiring a shit hot A-level project manager to manage this job for you, so you can go sell the next $400,000 to $500,000 cohort. And with that second cohort, that's when we'll hire our first project director. It's what I call sales guys. And now, not only are you off the tools, you're no longer client facing. You're not doing sales anymore. You're a true chief executive. So in 6 months, we can go from you working 90 hours a week, right? Barely making ends meet. 180 days later, you have a business that runs itself without your direct involvement in front of the customer. It's amazing. All because of customer funded marketing to get the contracts, where every contract you get at the front end of the deal, because we separate it out into two agreements, design and build. So at the front end, every design contract we sell, we reinvest those profits. It brings us 2 more. Okay. And then we use overbilling, right? Overbill performance talent process to, number 1, overbill the customer. And then 2, the second part of overbill performance talent is setting up your project manager's compensation in such a way that at least 25% of his compensation is based on delivering those contracts above a minimum acceptable gross profit. Okay, I call it the green line. At CQC, our green line was 37% gross profit. What does that mean? That means at 37 points after overhead, after marketing, after taxes, after owner compensation, there's still at least 10 points of true passive net profit. Very important. Okay. So, and we'll talk about that compensation schedule in just a moment. So the second tip I have for you is we got to get good at what's called capital allocation, right? This is a very important mindset shift. We need to stop thinking about we need to stop identifying our business with our product. In other words, yes, we do build shit, but we are in the business of making money, right? And we need to think about our general contractor the same way a hedge fund manager thinks about investments, right? So every project, we evaluate it the same way a Wall Street investment manager would look at an investment. And that is, we are going to deploy capital, in other words, money. We're going to deploy manpower, which costs us money, and we're seeking a return. Basically, for every dollar we invest in this project, we're seeking at least 67 cents back for a 40% gross profit, right? And I'm telling you, the moment I had this mindset shift where I started looking at these projects like an investment manager, I like that completely opened up my world to understand our business as a series of inputs and processes that create the output, which is profit, without me physically on the job site. There was a point in time as chief operating officer of CQC where we were tracking 12 million a year built, and I was 1,500 miles away in Puerto Rico. The only way that would happen is by ensuring that our project managers, well, first of all, the only way that would happen is by looking at these client projects like investments, and then backwarding out process in order to control risk. And you can't control risk until you can define risk. Does that make sense? So the third tip I have for you is to understand how to lead and design your organization in such a way that your leadership is about results, not effort. Okay, we don't get paid for effort. We get paid for results. Okay, and so the thing is, you're not going to be able to attract A-level talent unless you can afford to pay top of market prices, and you can't afford to pay top of market prices until we're charging top of market to the client. The pitfall here, a lot of well-meaning GCs go down this road and they'll say to me, Lane, I'm paying top of market, but my guys are still screwing me over, or they're lazy, or they're not solving problems. I still have to do everything. And the reason why is because your employees see you as an ATM. We have to put accountability measures on compensation, okay? That's the only way we're going to compel grown-ass men to do anything is through compensation. This is not the Army, all right? We can't throw them in jail or beat the shit out of them for not doing what we told them to do, okay? Which was a very hard lesson for me to learn when after spending a decade in the Army. But anyway, so the number one strategy I have for you is to adopt what I call the PDPM system. Right? PD stands for project director, PM stands for project manager. And the underlying principle below this is talkers talk, builders build. Okay? Your project director is your talker. He is a sales guy, but he's responsible for the customer relationship as the single point of contact all the way from the initial phone call all the way through the design agreement, through the build agreement to final payment collection. Okay? And he is paid a percentage of gross profit. For me, I prefer somewhere between 10 and 15% of job gross profit. Okay. And so then with a project manager who's doing the build, what I like to do is put him on a base salary. Okay. And then just me, I typically pay 2% of contract value when the contract is delivered above whatever my green line is. Like, for example, at CQC, 37% gross profit. Okay. That way, now what's interesting here is each PD can run up to 2 PMs. Okay. And those guys are in perfect alignment with you, the owner, because they're being paid out of gross profit. The PM doesn't get his bonus unless this job comes in above the green line. In my case, 37% gross profit. You're probably wondering, well, Lane, he didn't do the estimate. Au contraire, my friend, because in the design process, you need to create or in the design agreement, you need to create a process to where that job does not go to contract until the project manager has had a chance to, number one, review the plans, number two, review the estimate, and then give his input on it, right? In other words, to accept the numbers or refine the numbers in order to make sure that he can deliver above the green line so that he can get his bonus. And the moment he provides that input, guess what? That project manager now owns those numbers, and he has no one to blame except himself, right? And again, were you involved as the owner in any of this? No, right? The PM's a big boy. He, in order to accept that assignment, that project, he's got to review and approve the numbers before they go to the homeowner for contract. You're not the one doing that. The PM responsible is the one doing that. And he's doing that in conjunction with his project director, who's also paid a percentage of gross profit and has a vested interest in making sure that we have the highest gross profit possible. See how this works? So when you set up the PDPM system, that is the last piece. So when you really think about it, to get off the tools, to get out of the day-to-day, to be successful in this business, we need really 4 things. You need the PDPM system. You need to change your mindset to start thinking of your business not like a hammer swinger, but like a hedge fund manager seeking a rate of return on each project by controlling risk. And then the next 2 things you need are the overbill performance talent process that we talked about. And then we need customer funded marketing, right? Customer funded marketing gets you essentially unlimited customers. Overbill performance talent gets you essentially, it takes the constraint off of your gross profit so that you can pay top of market and attract A-level talent. The mindset shift allows you to number one, get rid of the head trash that the business revolves around you, and then number 2, put in place processes for controlling risk so that you can literally afford to step back and out of the day-to-day. And then lastly, by having the PDPM system, your employees are compensated in such a way that in the PM's case, a good chunk of his compensation, and in the PD's case, all of his compensation hinges on us turning an appropriate gross profit that allows you, the owner, to reinvest back in the company, pay you an appropriate wage for being the general manager. And what is an appropriate wage? It's whatever we would have to pay somebody else of your caliber to run this business for you so that you can go hang out with me in Puerto Rico and go fishing, right? So we put these 4 things in place. You're off the tools, you're out of the day-to-day, you have a wildly profitable business that runs itself with processes that control risk, operated by employees who are compensated based on gross profit, aligning their interests with you, the owner. Make sense? Let's get after it, guys. Be good.